Exploration gameplay. Probably one of the most anticipated types of gameplay in Star Citizen, though when I cover it, videos generally don't perform very well, and I think that's because the way it's being developed isn't very flashy or in your face. Last week, on the latest monthly report for Star Citizen, we got to see a sneak peek of a couple pieces of gameplay that convinced me they are still building out exploration gameplay, this kind of nebulous profession, right in plain sight. I'm going to walk you through these new different pieces of gameplay we're seeing and how they fit into a puzzle that they've kind of been building for years now. Welcome to the Feature Watch, where I talk more candidly about the features I've seen in the last week in Star Citizen development, and then we discuss how they have developed over the years and what they're going to look like when they come into the game. As you can see here, not in the new place just yet. We are living there, but I am working in a temporary location. If you want to hear more details about it, come by the stream. I don't want to bore you all with the details on this video, but I will be here probably for the next month, I hope. So it's going to look better than this, I promise. So the first part of this feature watch is around FPS radar and scanning. The changes are highlighting a player's ability to scan the environment and highlight objects of interest. This is obviously the most core part of exploration, because whenever you're doing all of your space travel, when you get to the place you have to go, you just kind of got to scan the locations to find what you're looking for. This could include finding some artifact you're trying to steal or a small historic pendant from a long-lost war. These kinds of little points are really important because they show exploration being built as a profession using a lot of little different types of gameplay. Here's an example. Take this change from the March monthly report, in which emissions were being split out on a per component basis. This is a big part of scouting, finding and identifying fleets or other ships, which is its own form of exploration. Yeah, it might be more military or spec ops focused, but you're still doing the things that are required to explore the verse. Or how about back in February, when the ability to share radar data between all stations in a ship was added, paving the way for radar operators or scanners and dedicated seats in places like the Mercury Star Runner or the Carrack, the 600i. There are quite a few of these stations in ships, and they are specialized to allow for people in those ships to do more exploration. There are also the investigation missions that were introduced at CitizenCon 2022 and are built around more of just looking around the environment, getting an idea of what's going on, and solving a problem. These aren't necessarily standalone missions alone though, they're being built as modules so that they can use these investigation segments in other missions to build some exploration into them. And then there's Quantum Boost, probably the biggest sign of all this exploration gameplay happening, as it hits that sweet spot of hundreds to tens of thousands of kilometers in terms of the distance you're traveling and your area of interest. They've sort of defined this area of anywhere from 100 to 50, 60, 70,000 kilometers as being that sweet spot of mid-distance pointing and searching and scanning for points of interest that you can then, zoom in on later. You can actually catch Chris Roberts talking about this back in 2022 at CitizenCon, basically defining what he wants exploration to look like, at least ambiguously.
Investigate it. So the whole sort of exploration, investigative gameplay that can happen in space now because of these different modes of travel and the scanning is going to be a huge deal. The whole idea of sort of these three sort of levels of traversal. One is you sort of regular, non-quantum one, where you're just using your regular thrusters, which is much more sort of limited and works for combat and stuff like that. Then there's the quantum boost, which is sort of to fast run over to a place, and then there's the quantum travel, which is the really long, okay, I'm going to go to this planet that's 500,000 kilometers away and I'm going to be in quantum for 5 minutes to get there.
The key component of this is quantum travel in any direction. This is a pre-3.0 feature that people really miss, and it means there's a lot more places we could run into stuff than the defined trade routes we've already been running between points of interest. I mean, the ability to quantum boost in any direction means that we could just randomly run into an anomaly. Now, something else that's shown up in monthly reports over the last couple of years is the development of quantum travel blocking or something like that. I can't remember what it was. But the idea that asteroids, asteroid belts, and other things might actually take you out of quantum travel. This could help us run into points of interest more, or just complicate the travel in certain areas that are more dense and happening, like in places like Terra or maybe trade routes. This could also factor into things like the air and halo belt gates, which are meant to protect travel between the inner and outer Stanton system, complicating the economics and trade but ultimately benefiting an ArcCorp because they own the trade lanes. I posted about this on Twitter a couple of weeks ago, and people were not happy about the idea, talking about why wouldn't people just fly over the belt to get around this, and I think that's actually another key part of building out smuggling and other forms of exploration. Now you have derelict ships and other conflicts that might spawn in these alternate routes because ArcCorp's blocked off the belt. This also means that navigating asteroid belts around planets like Yela could get more difficult, further building out the value of spending your time as an explorer going out to these harder to reach places like asteroid belts or clouds or, I don't know, the ocean. Ugh. Chris actually says as much as this in the same video when talking about the whole free quantum travel and describing how quantum boosting fits into their idea of exploration gameplay.
So we've done a scan here. That's also the old point of interest, because the point of interest will be just points.
Yeah.
But basically, we've done a scan. We've got some points of interest that are multiple 10Ks away.
And you can see the distance there. It says 13,000 kilometers on the right-hand side. So this is obviously just placeholder UI for the quantum boost. But again, you can just boost over there. And it obviously has this interactive gameplay, which obviously went into...
Yeah, and this, by the way, that's all programmer work in progress from Yogi on the quantum boost mechanism, because you're just going to have to stay in the zone to keep in boost, otherwise you'll fall out of boost. But we've gone over to the planet here. So what it's allowing you to do is sort of have that mid-level traversal and investigate things.
And then there's another part of that exploration equation. Before the FPS scanning and before the quantum boosting from mid-distance, what sets apart a ship like the Carrack? Long-distance probing. Yeah, not a great name, but this is the idea of using the drones from your ship to triangulate a point in space and figure out what's going on in that area. Now, Torsten Lehmann describes it much better than I could back in 2021, I believe, in a Calling All Devs episode.
Long-distance probing is basically a system that we want to introduce where players have a ship somewhere in space and they can send out like probes and place them anywhere in the same system. And those probes will ping and reveal basically objects that are of interest there, or anything that might be there. And those objects could be like mining places, derelict stations, ships, anything that we could imagine that you could find there and we could spawn. And so you find something, then what you have to do there is triangulate. So you have to bring in the probes into position so you get the more precise signal on that. And once the signal strength is enough, you can either decide to generate a quantum beacon that you can basically jump to. You could store that information and sell it to other players. Or what we aim to have there is an analysis gameplay where you basically have a signature, a unique signature of what you found there, and then you compare it on your ship. So basically the drones, the probe sends back the signature and use it on your PC, on the ship, and you compare the signature with everything that you either bought or you collected yourself in the library. And then you get an idea, okay, this might be in Gladius, this could be in a mining field. And then you can still decide to, okay, I jump there and I look at it, or the risk is too high, I don't jump there. So
there's even a hint in there about how this could tie into data running, which we will be talking about a lot on this channel. That's my own neck of the woods in terms of gameplay. The idea that you can break out of that exploration loop at any point, from getting the long distance scan data to getting a little bit closer and finding a good signature to just going straight to the place and finding the thing that you're looking for, it's pretty cool. You could break out and resort to a data running position where you could go the whole exploration route. I can't wait to see how that plays out, but I also like the way they talk about analyzing the data. So instead of just finding something and you found it, you find a signature that's kind of nebulous, and depending on your own player skill, your knowledge, or what you know about the game, you can identify that signature. Sort of like how you can understand rocks and mineral compositions when you're doing mining.
It's up to the players, once they get the full analysis, to figure out what that thing is. They can jump, they cannot jump, they can sell the information, they can sell it as, oh, I found this very rich asteroid field. And when that person buys it, looks over the analysis data, oh, yeah, that looks like an asteroid field. But when they jump there, it's not an asteroid field. There's, I don't know, it's a booby trap. There's a turret on every rock there. And as soon as you jump in, it blows you up. Because the guy that did the analysis didn't go all the way to figure out everything and actually jump there, see himself what is in that space.
What is important for us is definitely that it's a player skilled base. So the more data you collected, the more precise your predictions are. So the longer you have been doing that already, the more precise your data is, the higher the value is that you can ask for if you sell them.
And between all this long distance probing and medium distance jumping and short distance scanning, what are you finding? Well, they've been saying it this whole time. Resources, derelict ships, derelict space stations, abandoned ruins, hidden fleets, old battlegrounds with salvageables, ground surveys to determine base locations, resource deposits. There are so many things they can build points of interest from, as long as the servers can handle it after server meshing. We've seen them being built over the years, from the derelict outposts to the derelict ships, to the underground facilities, the caves, the rivers, the lakes, the planets, the clouds. All these things are meant to be able to be found and house things that are actually, hopefully, interesting to find. And then there's the idea of game spawned missions. There are a lot of map details still missing from what we know right now, but we know that maps will be downloadable. We know that ground locations will need to be surveyed for resources, and we know that the star map will have ground data. This is speculation, but who's to say the game doesn't automatically give out missions for players to just go scan random parts of planets? Sure, you can take whatever you find, but that data is what they want, and you turn that in for a fee. The game can then allow that to be supplied out to other players as the maps that they're buying to go and navigate that system. This can allow explorers to feel like they are actually part of the game, making a difference, and also supply something to the rest of the game that's supposed to be there, but they've clearly hinted at in the past is going to be something you kind of have to acquire. Last CitizenCon, Zane in the UI team actually talked about how you would need to download maps sometimes, and I do think that maps that are not in the main locations of a system might have their data obscured maybe, or not complete unless you go and buy it or acquire it some other way. That could be huge for exploration. And then of course there's the ability to just save and share your own markers. Unfortunately in 3.23 with the map update, we didn't get the ability to share these markers, but soon we should be able to pin and share and give our location to other people. This means you could save weapons caches and other types of things once you find them, and then sell those locations just to your org mates or your friends. All that matters for exploration to be a thing is that you can make money from it, right? And you can see that the company has been building all of these things to make that happen. The locations, the assets, the tools that can procedurally create these places. The narrative team is also getting more involved in all of this with the storytelling and creating little artifacts and things you can find out in the verse. The missions team is also still building out those investigation missions we talked about. And interactable and gameplay elements seem to be coming together to actually support some more stuff in these locations once they get there. Right now you get out to a derelict site, there's not really much to do. Soon we'll be able to charge and drain components, cut through materials, power manage environments, manage the power of systems, interact with the environment. We'll encounter hazards like radiation and weather, new fauna that's coming into the game, better traversal obviously with EVA and some of the new prone mechanics, and of course the actual scanning functionality that bridges the gap between the player and all these different things. Yes, they keep showing the scanning and all that stuff when it comes to combat scenarios, much like the Master Modes conversation hasn't really talked much about quantum travel either, but I think these things are going to be pretty big for exploration gameplay and all the stuff surrounding it. There are really only a couple of switches left to flick to make exploration a real paying profession that you can just survive in the game with. Two of those switches are the FPS scanning and radar editions and the Quantum Boost edition. And both of those might actually be coming in 4.0 if we get lucky. They're not on the roadmap yet, but I think at least one of them might sneak in. If you want to keep up to date on how that progress is going towards 4.0, maybe subscribe here. We've got other videos on the channel that go a little bit more in depth. These are my feature watches that come out weekly to look at the more general stuff. Let me know what you think though in the comments if you want to see more topics or keep the deep dives into a single topic. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.